Hello, everyone. My name is Michele Tracy Berger, and I'm delighted to welcome you tonight to a reading with contributors from the recently published collection called Feminine Rising, Voices of Power and Invisibility, edited by Andrea Fekete and Lara Lilibridge, published by Sinrin Press. So in just a moment, I'm going to read to you just a few snippets from the introduction, and then we will hear from our contributors. And I think you will be delighted by what you hear today. So Andrea writes in the beginning of the introduction, she says, "A specific event led to the inspiration for this book. I experienced a traumatic event in 2014, another one relegated and related to my gender. I felt silenced, angry. I worked with a West Virginia delegate attempting to pass a bill to protect women in domestic violence situations. I had a modest list of achievements related to serving or bringing justice to women and girls, and each achievement helped heal. But this time, I was fed up. I was obsessed for a month, wondering where I could put this specific anger. How could I use it to serve women and girls? Service heals. I remembered how growing up, the only time I felt heard, the only time I felt like I mattered was when I was sharing a story. But I felt my voice was too small by itself to liberate me this time. What if, I asked myself, I helped women all over the nation, maybe even the world, share their own stories? If I give them a platform, will the giver and receiver of the story be empowered? Yes, I thought, what a lofty goal." And so later on she says, "We didn't set out," her and Lara, "we didn't set out with structure in mind or themes for the collection. These developed organically and over time, which sets this collection apart from many. We produced this book backwards. Most anthologies start with a concept from the publisher, often a somewhat narrow one, who then hires editors who set out to make the vision become reality. Instead, we asked women to tell us what this book would be, and they did. Our questions were broad. We wanted contributors to decide what topics were relevant to their lives and not assign relevance to them. Our website asked contributors to answer these questions. Are there moments in your life when your femaleness was a source of power or hardship? When does your voice ring its clearest? And when have you been silenced?" We asked for work from women of all ages, races, nationalities, and religions. This anthology that I hold in my hand includes 75 poems and 23 essays. Topics include women's rites of passage, sexuality, birth stories, women as heroine, protector, survival of oppression and violence, the female body, gender roles, women in the workplace, ethnicity, and ancestry. So that's just a snippet from the introduction. And now I turn it over to the contributors.
Thank you, and that's me. I will start. I am Estella Gonzalez, and I teach at Middlebury College in Vermont. I am from Mexico, but I have lived in the States for half of my life. You can find me on Facebook at author Estella Gonzalez, which I must update. So I will read from my essay titled Open Triangle 2012. I held hands with Rosa Chavez Taylor every Friday morning. Sister Anna led my third grade class across the field stretching between our school and church. 33 gala uniformed girls in alphabetically ordered pairs bathed in sunlight. I felt bad for Susana Zambrano, who, as the last on the line, had to hold hands with Sister Anna, whereas my name paired me with Rosa. Freckled, long-haired, kind Rosa. When the breeze blew my way, I caught whiffs of her clean skin, combined with the anise and chamomile growing around us. On hot mornings, our palms sealed together, We chatted softly. For those 20 minutes, she was mine. Once after church, Rosa felt quiet, and I feared she was mad at me. She stopped, opened her mouth, and pointed inside. The Holy Host was stuck to the roof of her mouth. The line of girls behind us backed up in disorder. Sister Ana clasped her hands and ranted about desecrating God, while Pilar Merino tried to reach in and dislodge the wafer. I picked at Rosa's mouth. I saw a quiet O, pink and fragrant like the flower of her name, within the cushion of her tender tongue. Rosa closed her mouth. It's gone. Then we resumed our walk, and later she asked me if I was cold. My fingers trembled in her hand. That was Rosa. Later years brought me Ilsa's lush brown skin, and later Nina's Mapuche eyes, her sass. Oh, was she sassy. She liked to smell her own skin. Backs are sexy, she said once, as we shared a towel on the beach. If only we could see our own backs. She loved herself. And I loved her too. And other girls. They loved me back, but just not that way. At age 10, I was a tomboy, a fact everyone attributed to my having 3 brothers, no sisters, and a somewhat lonesome disposition. I loved girls, but no one knew. I reveled in the intimacy girls enjoy in Mexico, sleepovers and homework dates, makeover sessions, sharing beds and couches, braiding each other's hair, stroking each other's lips with cherry-flavored lip gloss brushes. Why did I never kiss those lips or touch that knee a tad longer? Why not? Then later, I met Nina in 1989, the sassy one with the Mapuche eyes. We were grad students on Long Island, in a country foreign to both of us. Nina's Chile had just ousted its dictator of 17 years. No, voters wrote on the ballots, and Pinochet was gone. Nina had done her part, and she had the scars to prove it. During my teenage years, I had organized sundown to sunup dance parties, a sweaty exercise in sentimental education. 4,000 miles away, in Chile, Nina faced water cannons on the street and spent an occasional night in jail. My heart glowed with pride and love as she told me. She was open to things I was not in the habit of considering. She knew that cops would be aggressive sometimes. I questioned the sense of attending demonstrations like that. And she would answer, why not? She doted on a potted plant on her windowsill. And one Wednesday night, while our housemates slumbered, she proposed to smoke a little bit from it. I sat on the carpet, my back against the wall, she in her bed. In the glow of her rice paper lamp, we smoked. Soon, everything swayed, her clock flashing orange meteors. I sat folded onto myself, crushed under a burden I did not understand. My heart beat loudly. My words were warped. You could easily hurt me, I said. And why would I? You don't trust me? Then why are you here? If only we had the subtitles from Annie Hall. Nina would know what I meant. I am weak when you are near. You can play with my body. In a parallel universe, she would have done just that. Why not? I filled the silence with nonsense. If I were gay, I would climb into that bed with you. In literature, sometimes characters lie outrageously, revealing their truths. Right, you are not a lesbian, she said, and nor am I. After a fitful sleep on my narrow bed, I showered the next morning and headed to campus. If only I could force the clock's hands back, I thought, while standing at the bus stop. Indeed, I erased the night in Nina's room in 3 simple words. Now what? Nothing. Those words haunt me to this day. Thank you. My name is Estella Gonzalez.
I'm Cheryl Denise, and I live in the intentional community of Shepherd's Field in Philippi, West Virginia, and we raise a small flock of Jacob's sheep. I have 2 books of poetry, I Saw God Dancing and What's in the Blood, both published by Cascadia Publishing House. And you can find me on Facebook at Cheryl Denise Poet. And I'll read 2 poems that are in the book, this wonderful collection. This first poem is from my book, I Saw God Dancing. God, according to Pastor Smucker, likes pretty women in floral skirts and a glory of long blonde curls. On a Sunday afternoon, the smell of a roast in the oven reassures God and man that everything is in order. God shines his face upon women with soft pink Bibles who go to women's groups, talk children and marriage, play piano, sew bandages to send overseas. He likes Maybelline women who make Jell-O salads for carry-ins. God is happiest when we're pregnant, as long as we remember the seed is our husband's and there's no correlation between creation and birthing. God sends men when we weep to stroke our foreheads and kiss our hair. He needs men to feel strong. God prefers us skinny, in fancy dresses with matching accessories. We are his temple. God wants us silent in business meetings, offering lemon squares and soothing herbal teas. God likes our breasts pointing heavenwards as we pray and do the dishes. And the second poem is called Swallowing. In Mrs. Ellis's class, when it was time for our test, with that giant clown poster with all the colors we were supposed to know, I got stomach sick, that easy to slip into sick, that struck again in nursing school, the 6 a.m. vomiting, then walking erect, blue pinstripes, that white starched cap. During med pass, my hands shook, breaking the glass vial of Dilaudid, cutting my palm. In peds, all those tiny calculations, and that boy with his gangrenous foot, me mixing powders and solutions, hanging little IV bags, counting drops, questioning my math, interrupting my sleep. When I was 25 and freshly engaged, my future aunt asked, lemonade or iced tea? And I turned to my fiance for the answer, drank the tea I did not like. After the open mic reading, the poet I love danced right in front of the guitar man. My legs ached to join her, but stood like pillars before the whiskey-breathing prof, criticizing my poems, standing so close like he might kiss me while I swallowed the words I wanted to scream. At 45, I was going to be the only nurse in the county making home visits by motorcycle. On a tiny toy Honda, I drew giant figure eights in the field, then graduated to dirt roads. But I imagined men in pickup trucks laughing at my efforts. And then that slight incline that rose like Everest while I whispered, fuck, 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 under my helmet before placing an ad in the Trader, one slightly used Honda 200. Someday, I'll be 95. A porcelain-skinned nurse will enter my room without knocking, hand me a small paper cup with 2 oval pink pills and 1 blue. I will think, these are not mine. She will hand me a glass of water, confident in her white uniform, shiny name tag, shimmery smile. I'll hesitate. She'll nod. I'll shake the pills on my tongue. swallow.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Morris. I'm in Santa Cruz, California. For the last 3 years, I've taught women's history at University of California at Berkeley. I'm the author of 17 books, and I'm going to read a short story called Puberty's Enchiladas. And you can find me at www.bonniejmorris.com. It's December 1973, and in Chapel Hill, there's a brand new restaurant called Tijuana Fats. That's where we're going tonight for my father's birthday. Well, the sort of place my hippie parents can afford. The very name evokes our California past, the Baja trips and taco stands we came from. A dinner out for 4 ex-Angelinos, tired of Southern barbecue. My father in long sideburns, biker boots, my mother in a peasant dress and beads, me with my retainer, 12 years old. A moment of profound sophistication, for by now I understand my school friends are rich kids who eat out all the time. We're just here for a special birthday treat. But my friends' parents fight. Their meals are often silent strain, and my family's dinner table rocks and rolls with laughter and good talk. I'm thinking of these blessings as I eat my enchiladas, eating my past years in California, my present ones transplanted here and now. The hippie music swings, the low lamps over the table, the recessed nooks of Mexican ceramic wall art add their glow, and the folded napkin hides my orthodontic retainer while I eat. Don't throw out the expensive retainer now that you have the smile. And something strange is happening to me. I can feel it. Better not say anything. Check it out later. Just lean forward, the blue plate enhancing the enchiladas, 3 of them, burnt orange in their tuck and rolled loveliness. Eat, but not too much. There will be birthday cake later. My grandmother's recipe from my father. What is happening to me? My father is happy. He's 39 today. He has a gorgeous wife, 2 smart kids, 2 cats, a big red dog, 2 green yards to mow. He's drinking a frosty margarita. This is his night. Just look down and concentrate on the rice, the rice, the rice. And when we arrive home later in the coach shrugging, key jangling lull between walking in and getting that cake out of its hiding place, I run to the bathroom. I have my own little bathroom now in my bedroom. Only the week before, my parents completed renovations so I could have my own room. The 12-year-old growing up gets her private bath. So now I can throw my car coat across the room, dive into that green tile little toilet privacy to confirm that yes, during my father's 39th birthday, during my father's party, my first period began. I walked into that restaurant a girl, I walked out a woman. And there's no bat mitzvah planned for this in my unkosher family. Today I am a woman, bless these enchiladas. That'll have to do. And that's when I yell out the sentence that so many girls have yelled. Mom, can you come in here for a minute? And it will never be this intimate again, this ritual of calling out, hey, Mom? At every life landmark after this, Mom will be far away, not beckoned or not told much. Losing my virginity 5 years from now, not shared with Mom. It's just this once, this growing up. And Mom has the cake knife in her hand, called to my side in the middle of smoothing chocolate frosting on my father's cake. She looks in where I'm exposed to her and verifies the red stain. Yeah, that's it. But I don't get a smack across the face, the smack that her own mother, born in Poland, had to suffer when this started. I get a plate of chocolate cake after I'm trussed up with the belt. My father stands there, forgotten. Hey, it's supposed to be his day. Next year he'll be 40. Already he's got worries. Now his daughter can get pregnant. No one says much more to me. My parents just stand there looking hip, but also frozen. And I head to the phone, the critical things to call my best friend, who's already been through this and will squeal and gloat and gasp. This is the call she's waiting for. One of the rare nights she's not grounded, punished, and her phone privileges suspended. Guess what? I crow down the phone. A momentary pause, and then, no, she shrieks back knowingly. You didn't. And that's the whole exchange. Really, what more is there to say?
Hi, my name is Lightfoot, and I live in Salem, Massachusetts, but I grew up in Michigan. I am reachable on Facebook, and my website is, and on Facebook I am Lightfoot. My website is collie-lightfoot.com. My poem in Feminine Rising is Puberty, 1956. It is short, so I will read it once and then say a few things about it and about me and read again. Oops, it's the wrong page. Puberty, 1956. I was 12 and I wanted to learn to play Schumann's Traumerei on the piano. We didn't have a piano and I couldn't even play chopsticks, but like Robert, I was in love with Clara Schumann. Well, actually, I was in love with Katharine Hepburn, who played Clara and the piano in Song of Love. That year, I also fell in love with Deborah Kerr in The King and I, Ingrid Bergman in Anastasia, and June Allison's voice in Everything. I wept, I dreamt, and I did not swoon over Elvis on Ed Sullivan. Watching July 4th fireworks with my best friend Madeline, I offered to stand close to keep her warm. I knew it wasn't innocent, but I didn't know just what it was, except new and terrifying. I stayed away from her for all the next day, and as it turns out, for the rest of our lives. This is my favorite version of this poem, but I have learned through comments at readings and things that some people interpret it to mean that Madeline rejected me, somehow picked up on my vibe, I guess. Well, she didn't. I rejected me. The staying away was about me being too scared to share with her how I felt, even to just wonder about it. The version of the poem that you will read in my new book, which is coming out in 2021, titled Pelted by Flowers, which is published by Cavan Carey Press, has a slightly revised ending on this poem that makes it clear that the staying away was an inner wall of my own. This happened at age 12. I came out as a lesbian after getting sober at age 40 and wrote this poem the first semester of my MFA at age 68. Coming out is a long process and it happens over and over and over again in different ways and in different times. So anyway, I guess I'll just read it again. Puberty, 1956. I was 12 and I wanted to learn to play Schumann's Traumerei on piano. We didn't have a piano and I couldn't even play chopsticks, but like Robert, I was in love with Clara Schumann. Well, actually, I was in love with Katharine Hepburn, who played Clara and the piano in Song of Love. That year, I also fell in love with Deborah Kerr in The King and I, Ingrid Bergman in Anastasia, and June Allison's voice in Everything. I wept, I dreamt, and did not swoon over Elvis on Ed Sullivan. Watching July 4th fireworks with my best friend Madeline, I offered to stand close to keep her warm. I knew it wasn't innocent, but I didn't know just what it was, except new and terrifying. I stayed away from her for all the next day, and as it turned out, for the rest of our lives. Thank you.
My name is Wendy Besel Hahn, and today I'll be reading an excerpt from my essay that appears in Feminine Rising. The essay is titled "Where the Sexual Meets the Sacred." You can find me at my writer's website, www.wendybesselhahn.com. Where the Sexual Meets the Sacred. I reclined on the exam table and stared at my exposed stomach. My white skin was taut but soft. Weeks earlier, I had announced my pregnancy to my colleagues and my students, 17-year-olds in my junior level English classes. Since that time, my department chair had taken to cheerfully greeting me and lowering her gaze to assess my progress. A male student in my 8th period class had blurted out, "Mrs. Hahn, you didn't look pregnant before spring break. What happened?" Weeks later, a female student had whispered, "I can see your belly." She smiled so hard that she squinted. I tried not to feel about attention. It wasn't my glowing personality that garnered these outpourings. As the doctor looked at my chart, I thought of the maternity catalog whose bikini-clad swimsuit models reminded me of Vanity Fair's August 1991 cover, picturing Demi Moore in a scandalous combination, pregnant and nude. In the photograph, she stood nearly in profile, partially covering the breast closest to the camera with her left hand to show off an enormous diamond ring. Her right hand cupped the underside of her belly as her eyes looked away. The lighting emphasized her pregnant abdomen, perfectly smooth and free of stretch marks. She looked incredibly sensual, a modern-day twist on Botticelli's The Birth of Venus. On first viewing the magazine over 10 years earlier, I had judged it critically. It didn't seem appropriate to depict the pregnant form as sexy, yet it had become an image to emulate. I hadn't ordered a bikini for the upcoming summer months, but I followed a student's advice and diligently applied cocoa butter to my expanding stomach. After asking about the baby's movements, my doctor produced a tape measure. She must have seen the look on my face because she smiled. "Just remember, you are a walking miracle," she instructed as she stretched the measure from my pubic bone to my navel. I smiled blankly at her, uncertain how to take the remark. Several million walking miracles inhabited the planet with me, contributing to overpopulation. My major life accomplishment seemed to be getting knocked up. While I fastened my pants, I thought about our high school's graduating seniors, at least two of whom were pregnant also. Did their doctors call them walking miracles? I had a license to breed on my finger and had reached a respectful age. Therefore, I received congratulations. But despite my cynicism, I did feel like a walking miracle at times. In the early morning or late at night, I felt a flutter of something moving deep inside me. My uterus was an opaque fishbowl containing a tiny fetus that bumped up against the glass. For several weeks, my husband placed his hands on my belly, unable to feel the movement. These quickenings were private moments, like kneeling to pray in an empty sanctuary. I was the only one who could detect the amazing communication from within. Due to time, I'm going to skip to the last part of my essay, which takes place 4 years after that first scene. I was nearly 3 months pregnant with my son when I went to an Annie Leibovitz exhibit. Next to the famous portrait of Demi Moore, a plaque explained that the photographs had initially been intended for her and her then husband, Bruce Willis. Leibovitz had convinced the couple to allow her to use the photograph on the cover, forever committing Demi's pregnant form to the public domain. Across the room, I found a companion photograph of a pregnant woman's nude torso. Lilibridge had shot the image with the model facing the camera. A pair of hands intertwined over the woman's stomach clearly belonged to a man with a wedding band who stood behind the model, embracing her. The work had a much more intimate feel than the famous magazine cover. It more closely assembled the candid photographs Lilibridge had captured of her family members and her partner, Susan Sontag. While Moore and Willis were posing, their posture seemed natural. Moore exposed her nipples and let her plentiful breasts repose. The image's beauty had less to do with her amazing physique and did not even include her attractive face or sleek, short haircut. Everything about the photograph made it more accessible. My husband and I might have been that faceless couple captured in black and white. Yet I found myself retreating from the image. Viewing it felt slightly voyeuristic, as if I had caught a glimpse of some private moment through partially opened window blinds. In the museum's gift shop, I found a postcard with a replica of the Vanity Fair cover. I looked in vain for the second image, the pregnant torso, unadorned. I admired the woman in that second photograph who was comfortable in her body. It reminded me of a pagan goddess statue and my own body's impending transformation. I debated purchasing the postcard, but finally did, knowing the iconic image would forever evoke its companion. Together, they constituted a complete image. Thank you.
It's just an honor to read with this wonderful group of women. So I'm Michele Tracy Berger, and I am a scholar and a creative writer. I mostly write speculative fiction, but I occasionally write creative nonfiction and poetry. And you can find me, I have a blog called The Practice of Creativity, which is a blog for readers and writers at micheleberger.wordpress.com. And that's Michele with one L, Michele, and Berger, Berger. So I'm going to read an excerpt from The Poison Our Mothers and Grandmothers Drank, an essay that's in the collection. 2002, Dream. I'm surrounded by my grandmother, my mother, and other indistinct female figures. They are dressed in ceremonial blue and white tunics, and we are pressed together on the concrete walkway outside the second floor of my Oakland apartment building. I pay attention to dreams. They are a night rhythm that feeds my waking life. I record them, honor them with titles, and pore through pages of old dream journals as if meeting cherished friends. While visiting an art gallery in Pittsburgh, North Carolina, where I currently live, Sharon Blessum's Medicine Woman photograph brings back a significant dream to me that has taken years to reflect on and absorb. It is so clear in my memory. This dream, there is a hush and I am given a chalice. My grandmother, whose husky voice is just as commanding in the dream as it was in life, tells me to drink from it. I do not want to drink it. I know it is poison. I am upset in the dream and I try to push the chalice away. I go, after seeing the Medicine Woman photograph, I go and search for the precise description of the dream, knowing it is buried somewhere in my 12 or more journals, which chronicle my move from the West Coast and much of my 8.5 years in North Carolina. After upending my already disorganized office, I find the journal with my first recollection of the dream. And luckily, just after a few pages after the entry, I see my notes from a therapy session where I first discussed the dream with Ruth, a skilled Jungian psychotherapist. When I read my entry, however, I'm crestfallen because there's a gap between what I initially wrote about the dream and how the dream exists in my memory. I struggle to make sense of the difference. The journal entry says about the dream, dreams, active, grandmother and mom, me drinking witch hazel. Medicinal? What does that do? Remember this fragment the best. Reading the fragment of the dream journal, The detail of witch hazel surprises me. The sharp smell of witch hazel has faded from my memory of the dream. Why didn't I remember that witch hazel was what they offered? I know witch hazel well. In my mind's eye, I see the tall bottle's red and black label. My mother used it for everything, just like other poor urban women did in my neighborhood. She sprinkled it on cotton balls and rubbed us down with it for fever, or to take the sting out of a bruise, or as an astringent to dry up a pimple. I wonder about the symbolism of witch hazel, as I know it is a significant medicinal plant, but nothing comes to me. Not satisfied with the brevity of the original journal entry, I consider if I might have written this dream or confused this dream with another. No, I assure myself that is not right. This is the written aspect of the dream, a fraternal rather than identical twin to the one that lives in my memory. The rest of the dream, my mother, small and nut brown, she says, I must do it. I must drink it even though I feel like I will die. A sense of obedience and loyalty washes over me. I defer to them. My inherent trust in them sustains me as I drink the poison. I read on from the therapy session about the dream. Ruth said that I got this witch hazel dream, but I was interpreting things too literally. It's about the dark feminine, perhaps, the transmutation of the woundedness of these women that can pull you down into something else, that my own, perhaps psychic witch is involved. Old knowledge, old rituals, and it is tough. It is strong medicine. In the dream, I drink the poison and I am dying. I shake and tremble. It is a terrible agony. I was never fully satisfied with Ruth's interpretation, though I could not come up with a better one at the time. Years pass and my time becomes laser focused on planting roots after a cross-country move, navigating my partner's lonely road of depression, and establishing myself as a published scholar. So a little later on in the essay, I say, I see that the act of offering and drinking the poison that my grandmother and mother initiated me into was an alchemical process. It was not literally meant to kill me, but to help me to become conscious of the nature of challenges that others and I face. Such recognition unleashes the power of authentic awakening. As I look at my life and how it's unfolded in North Carolina, I now believe that the dream gives me insight into how to help other women, especially women of color, recognize the poisons they face in their lives. Racism, sexism, dispossession of spirit, erasure, poisons that are so eagerly offered to them in society. I can support other women to transmit society's poison into a greater transformation of the self. I'll pause there. So this concludes our time together. Let me just say a few reminders for our audience. You can find all our contributors online. Again, the title of the collection is Feminine Rising, Voices of Power and Invisibility. And it can be found online at all wonderful booksellers. There's also a YouTube channel under the name Feminine Rising, and so please find us there because many of the contributors have wonderful readings, full reading of their stories. So again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Michele Tracy Berger, and I've enjoyed being your moderator.